Welcome to the Spiritual Intelligence Podcast, Awakening Your Inner Power with Danielle Martinez Stahl, where we will explore, discover, and integrate different aspects of our spiritual and human nature so that we can all thrive and live life with more grace and ease instead of struggle. Welcome to the Spiritual Intelligence Podcast. My name is Daniel, and with me today is Danielle. So Danielle
Got the
Hall.
Daniel and the Danielle.
So Danielle Hall is someone that I just recently met myself. I came across her watching one of Jamie Butler's old videos, and not only did I really enjoy the conversation, I loved what Danielle was talking about, and I wanted to introduce you to her and what she does. I think it's amazing. So I will let her talk to you about what she does. So Danielle, take it away.
Daniel. Well, first, thank you for, just reaching out. I really appreciate that. I love just being able to have a conversation about my work because I do feel that it is what I'm called to do and support a bigger picture of, you know, helping people live a life that they actually love waking up to every day. But I do have a question. You said an old video. I'm wondering how old did I have blonde hair in that video?
No, you didn't. I think it
Oh, I did.
was 2017.
Okay, maybe right before I went blonde. Okay, I'm just getting my time frames.
Yeah, I
Jamie
think it,
Butler is an amazing medium. And anyone who hasn't, heard about her or have heard her talk, she's been a mentor to me in different ways. And so I'm glad that's how you found me.
me too. Me too. So talk
So
so talk to us about what you do a little bit, and then we'll kind of go from there.
sounds good. So, hi everyone in the internets watching. My name is Danielle Hall. I'm the founder and CEO at Sound Embrace. And at Sound Embrace, we create sound experiences for personal transformation and growth, supporting you to live a life that you love waking up to every day. And I do this in quite a few ways. One, I still do some in-person sound bath sessions, which are becoming less and less as I've stepped into more of a full-time teacher role within my sound healing certification program. So I'm also leading other sound practitioners in serving the mental health and wellness of the communities that they're passionate about serving, and not just teaching them how to actually do the thing, but to also have a sustainable business in being a sound healing practitioner. And then I also have an online platform where it's a membership opportunity. You can have 2-minute, 10-minute, and 30-minute sessions, sound healing in your pocket whenever you need it. And I also bring sound healing therapy into different wellness programs. I've been in different hospitals, therapy centers, nonprofits, and part of my goal with that is also creating job opportunities for my alumni students. So, very proud of what we are building together as the sound healing community and Sound Embrace alumni are coming together and, really making this something that is more accessible and not just in who I might be able to attract, but accessibility in them living their purpose, them living in alignment, and serving who they're really called to serve.
Beautiful.
That was a lot of words.
That's all right. It's all right. There's going to be more coming. Don't worry. Don't worry. So, I love the idea. I never would have connected the dots between. I know this is going to sound really strange, but I've never really connected the dots between sound and well-being. Like I
Mm,
wouldn't have thought of that. I'm the kind of person that has always loved music. I have friends that are, music is such an important part of their life. It is for me as well, though not in the same way as other friends. But sound has always been really important to me. But I never would have thought the way that you use sound is really not commonly understood and commonly known. And so for people that aren't familiar with what a sound bath is, can you give us a little bit of a background on what that is and how does it do what it does to help us improve our well-being?
That is a loaded question.
Yes, it is.
But I appreciate it because there is a difference in sound healing versus, going to a musical concert, for example. There's a difference between performance and facilitation. And not that I don't want to knock any of my artist friends or anyone who's, in the performance aspect of music. Um, but one of the fundamental differences with sound healing is that, participants, they come in, they lay down, they close their eyes. It's a active passive experience. Passive in the sense that your body is still, you close your eyes and you're going inward. Active in the sense that you are becoming aware of any sensations you're feeling in your body. We are asked to notice these sensations without judgment and becoming a witness to anything that's coming up for you within the experience. And then as the facilitator, it's not a performed set that we are performing. It really is a facilitation. So while there are specific protocols that we'll go through, in between the protocols, we're actually watching everyone's bodies, how you're moving, not to sound creepy, but we're watching you. We want to see how you're breathing. I want to see if, how are your hands moving? Where are your hands placed? There are different different physical cues that let the facilitator know how to adjust their facilitation, what instruments to play, how to do a specific transition, whether to play an instrument or not play an instrument. And so while musical performances can have really beautiful and spiritual, can evoke very beautiful and spiritual experiences, in a sound healing session, we are it's almost a co-creation because we are watching how you're reacting to it, and we are meeting the needs of what's coming forward through your body. So that's what I would say is the biggest one of the biggest differences between performer and facilitation.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And what I'm thinking about is I think it's going to be really impossible for people to know what it is that you're speaking about. Um, so I know that you and I have already spoken about how you're going to be joining my membership conversation with my spiritual community. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how that conversation goes and what I can clip out of that conversation to create a sample that I'll
Yeah.
include in the description of this podcast, so that people that are listening, of course, check out Danielle Hall's website. There's a lot of information there. Um, I would highly recommend her membership. I've kind of started getting into that myself, but I will include a sample, and I don't know how long it's going to be, but I will include a sample from our session that we do within the membership community for you guys to get an example of what it is. So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, Danielle, that I was really impressed with, from the conversation that I heard you speak with Jamie, and I will also include the link of that conversation in the description of the episode so that people can
Oh,
have
great.
that additional resource. But you were talking a lot about the integrity behind the work that you do with regards to knowing which instrument to use or what combination of instruments to use for different physical conditions, and
Mm.
have it not contradict or have it not cause a potential issue. And that you spent a lot of time exploring that yourself and learning that, because there was a lot of gaps in the classes that you were taking. As wonderful as they were, there was still a lot of gaps that you had found in terms of how you wanted to practice, that you ended up having to do a lot of personal research and educate yourself on that relationship between what to do for which situation, and to do it in a effective way and in a healthy way. Can you speak more to that?
The integrity piece is really big to me, and it's something that I've infused within the program. There's so when you're and this can go actually for any wellness field, any alternative modality. Actually, I think anybody to be in integrity with self, you have to continue to do your own personal work. And with what I tell all of my students is, when you start facilitating or you start going to sound baths yourself as a participant, I like to say the crystal bowls do not let you lie to yourself. There is something about these instruments that when we get to these deeper states of meditation, into these deeper brainwave states, it allows us to get to this place of, a lot of people think of that place of no thought. But really, to me, it's this place of not being attached to our identities, not being attached to, I am Danielle Hall in this human female form. I'm not a reverend, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a sound healer, I'm not a daughter, I'm not a sister. You're completely just full, just consciousness, pure consciousness. And so, what that state allows you to do is to open up to other possibilities that you, because of different belief systems that we have inherited or we have adopted, those kind of get put onto the shelf, and we're able to see ourselves or think about ourselves in situations or future situations that we may not have thought that we could do, be, or feel. And so, this integrity part to me is, what are you doing with the experiences that you're having as the facilitator, facilitating your own sessions, while also, as the participant, what are you doing for yourself, or what are you doing with the experiences that you're having in that meditation? So, first of all, like that's really where I'm coming from with that first integrity piece, is continuing to do my own work. And I do a sound bath for myself every day. And there's and I look at, what is the internal conversation I'm having to myself about myself? Where are my limiting beliefs? Why do I think the way that I think? Why do I feel the way that I feel? Is this inherited? Is this something that was passed down or given to me from my parents that no longer serves me now in my almost 40dom, and that constant as a sound practitioner is what allows you to continue to do this work more sustainably, which I think is another, full on conversation. And then, to touch on the actual instruments and the integrity behind that, it's, where we use a lot of, I would say, non-traditional instruments in sound healing therapy. So it might be crystal bowls, it could be shamanic drums, it could be djembes, chimes, bells, gongs. You've probably heard of some of these, didgeridoos, all these really beautiful instruments. And so I think, in doing this work, it's really important to know where these instruments come from, how they were used within those cultures, and know your place within that. So I'm not going to come and do I'm not, for example, I'm not Native American, so I'm not going to come with, the full on Native American. I can't, I'm not a Native American shaman. I can't present those practices and those cultures of what we know, or we can look up and learn. But what I can do with that is, okay, how are they using specific drumming methods to induce a meditative state or trance-like state that facilitates for some people, connecting with their guides, or connecting with self, or feeling more grounded within their body. um, does that kind of explain what you were getting at? Oh, you cut out.
Sorry, I kind of muted myself so I wouldn't be in, wouldn't be in the way. So it does start to address it. So let me ask you a more specific question. Can you talk about, at least to your idea, why sound heals? How it is that sound heals? And I'll tell you what I think in my very layman's understanding. There's a vibration in sound. The term frequency is used a lot in the spiritual communities. But
High vibes.
right,
High vibes, man.
there's a frequency in certain tones. There's a vibration in certain tones. And I remember the first time that I was introduced to a Tibetan singing bowl, I was amazed by not only how it sounded, but how my body felt when I heard it and
Mm.
felt it. It reverberates through the body. And it was just a single bowl. And it was just beautiful. And I've always loved it. And I've always wanted to buy one. And I just haven't gotten around to a position in my life where it makes sense for me to have one. But having met you, it's got
Everybody needs a bowl.
it's gone higher up my list on the things that I want to have in my life. But
Everybody needs a bowl.
yeah, so I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about that kind of aspect, the relationship between the tones and healing, and the tones and the body, and the tones and beyond the body.
I think a good place to start for most people is, I think a lot of people have heard that we're all made up of frequency. We're all just these, we have these spinning vortices of our cells that are constantly giving off frequency, and also picking up signals from frequencies from our environment. And with sound healing, when you're coming into a sound healing space, we are essentially changing your environment. We are creating a sound environment for your body to be enveloped in. And creating this sound environment creates the opportunity for the body to go into its own natural healing state, in getting into theta brainwave states, you know, more difficult the delta brainwave states, and those just turn on the body's natural immune system functions to go in and clean house, as I like to say. Go and clean it up. But it's the sound that induces that response within the body. It's not the sound that is, cleaning. So it's more of this really beautiful ecosystem that we're creating. So to back up a little bit further, we don't just hear or experience the world with our ears. We feel, we see, we taste, we smell. And so we're constantly picking up these frequencies and picking up signals from our environment through our skin. And the nerve endings in our skin can only bring in so much information from our environment. And so, in creating this sound environment, we're actually like tapping out the amount of signal, the amount of frequency that the nervous system can bring in through the skin. So in doing that, another thing that happens is, the little bones in our ears are have this direct connection to our vagus nerve, so we're actually tickling the vagus nerve as well, and that also sends a bunch of beautiful signals to the nervous system to shift from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. um, and in the facilitation aspect, you know, it's not, what I share with people is that it's not, majority of the time it's really beautiful and blissed out and people feel really great when they come out, man. People feel good in their bodies, they feel a sense of peace majority of time. But that doesn't mean that there are times that we don't feel great after our experience or during our experience, because we carry whatever burdens, whatever we are holding in our mental, emotional, and physical body will be what is a co-creation in the experience that you're having. So, see if I can give a good example. So, if you're stressed out from your job, let's say, a lot of people feeling stress, feeling some anxiety for, let's just say, various reasons. It depends on how you hold that energy. It depends on how you personally process and work with stress, that when you come into a sound bath session, it could evoke some emotions. Maybe you're that person that's really good at compartmentalizing things and you don't feel your feelings in the moment, right? And so a sound bath could potentially bring those emotions up and through to create more lightness in your body, or relief of how you're holding that in your nervous system. And for some reason, what does it mean to cry in public, or what does it mean to release tears in public? That doesn't mean that you're going to full out cry, but let's say that some tears came, and then what is the story that you're telling yourself about these tears that are coming up? And then that can create another conversation within yourself of whether this was a good experience or not. I think one of the things that sets my sound baths apart from my sound healing sessions apart from any other sound practitioner, and this is something that I teach my practitioners, is to, or I encourage them to do, is to hold, to allow space at the end of a sound bath session, whether it's groups or one-on-ones. It's easier to do this, but to allow space for the client to have a conversation with you about their experience, because sometimes people see colors, sometimes people see shapes, sometimes people have a knowing sense about things. You might just fall asleep. There's always at least one or two of you who falls asleep in my group sound bath sessions, and it's great. Sometimes people have an experience of seeing a past loved one, um, and so there are a lot of different types of experiences that people can have. And what I'm not seeing so much of in the sound healing space, it are practitioners holding space for the conversation around that, so that people are not afraid of what comes through, and so that we can connect the dots for them, support them in connecting the dots for themselves on how to actually take some actionable steps. Sometimes there's nothing you need to do, just allow it. But sometimes it is like, where are you holding yourself back in speaking your truth or acting in alignment with your truth? um a lot of, and I don't know if I'm kind of going out to left field, because there's you had asked about kind of, I think, more the spiritual side, or what was that there was like a second part to your question.
I had asked about, let's see if I can remember.
I know.
Um, so there's no wrong direction that we can go in. Let's just kind of go there.
All right. So
But
I'll kind of
um,
go into this kind of esoteric piece. So while there's so much science of how I think this will bring it back to something that you had asked, actually. While there's so much science that supports, beats per minute in training, brainwave states that induce these different brainwave states, like theta. The theta brainwave state is this really great, beautiful, amazing brainwave state that helps us go into our natural bodies, um, clean up into the parasympathetic nervous system state, which we want, that rest and digest. Um, and there are specific frequencies that have been studied to support the body in different ways. For example, there's science on the frequency 128, releasing nitric oxide in the body. So if someone has a tuning fork and places that, you could um, help that person release nitric oxide, which is a painkiller, which helps relieve pain. You can also achieve that with humming, believe it or not. 5 minutes of humming, there's science on that. Everybody go home and hum. You might be at home now. But if you're feeling a headache, or if you're feeling any sinus pressure, you're unable to concentrate, you're unable to focus, humming is a really powerful and researched practice that releases nitric oxide and helps bring the body down to calm and peace. The calm and peace are my words because that's how I experience it, but shifts you over to the parasympathetic nervous system state. And we doctors are using frequency in different ways for Alzheimer's patients, for Parkinson's patients, for different injuries where it's helping to create more blood flow within a particular joint, to accelerate the healing process. Kidney stones, they can find the resonant frequency of the kidney stone, blast a frequency right to the kidney stone and blow it up. And it doesn't harm your kidney because it is the frequency of the kidney stone, just volume up exponentially so that it's feeding it energy. And so now, kidney stone's easier to pass. And so we have a lot of science that does support what we do in different ways. And it is being practiced in different ways in the medical realm, and then in the spaces that I'll go into to facilitate. Now on that kind of esoteric route, where we're still hoping for a little bit of science for our science, kind of grounded friends, that there's when people see colors, it can go a couple different ways. There's some science for different colors that people may see, in an experience like this. But I think where the people that I attract, and I think we talked about this in our earlier call, that we attract people who may not necessarily be into so much of the esoteric, or they're searching, but they don't know what resources to trust, right? And so there's a foundational aspect to sound healing, and then there's the esoteric aspect of sound healing. And through over 10 years of doing this work, coming from a military family, was not open to anything like this. This was like freaking crazy and woo woo, and I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, kind of a thing. I understand this mindset of what some people may think when I go into this conversation of the colors. So I'm just preparing you listeners. Take a sip, take a breath, bear with me. So sometimes people see colors, and this is one of the most common things that people experience. If you don't experience this, don't worry, there's nothing wrong with you. Eventually, this is something that can come. But sometimes people see colors. And in the very beginning of my career, I could not, of course, I couldn't explain this. I was trying to find science on it, and it just, everything I found about colors came back to the chakra system. And while, we can say that that the nerve ganglia aligns perfectly or nearly perfectly with, the chakras, we're still trying to bridge that gap, create the bridge on that science and this spiritual aspect of it. So when someone sees colors, I now, um, through experience of witnessing this over and over and over again, I just can't deny that when people are seeing these different colors, it's relating to the chakra system. So if somebody is seeing blue, blue is associated with the throat chakra, and that is around speaking your truth and acting in alignment with your truth. And so I'll usually, if somebody tells me that they've seen blue, I'll ask them, is there a possibility that you are holding back and speaking your truth or acting in alignment with your truth? Or possibly starting to speak more in your truth or acting in alignment with your truth. And usually, the direction I would go with that question would depend on the rest of the story that's happening, from what they've shared. But, I like to share that because, if somebody saw blue, it might be weird. They might feel weird for expressing that they saw this color, or maybe that shape, or having that knowing sense, or maybe, their foot jerked, all of these things, um, that, someone new coming into the space, I want you to feel comfortable and confident in moving forward with your experience. And I want you to come back, because one of the things, and now I'm just kind of going off a train and I'll pause after this, but what I notice is there's a magic number. The magic numbers are 3, 6, and 9 for a session. By the third time you go to a sound bath, within a relatively close date, within a month or 2 months, the third session, people start to notice, oh, okay, yeah, I feel better. It lasts about a day, and I'm starting to see things a little bit differently. By the sixth session, then they're like, wow, that's really sticking, especially for people who haven't been sleeping very well or have challenges with insomnia, or even PTSD and anxiety and depression. By the sixth session, they're like, oh wow, I haven't had as challenging of an episode, or haven't had as many of these types of thoughts, or I've noticed that I'm feeling a little bit better in my body more often. And then by that ninth session, it's like, wow, there are these longer periods of time that they're feeling better. Longer periods of time when they're not having a depressive episode or those bouts of debilitating anxiety. And so, while I don't have science that I could spit at you at the moment, um, there is something to conditioning yourself and training yourself to go into the parasympathetic nervous system state more often. And when you can do that, you start to condition the body, the mind body connection, in feeling safe there, and feeling that it is okay there, that it can rest there. For some people, that they are worthy of being there, they have the enoughness of being there. And so, more often we incorporate these practices, or sound healing, it's cumulative, and it supports the body long term.
I wonder if it has something to do with the thought just kind of came to me as you were saying that I wonder if it has to do with the sound helping the body to learn how to find its balance. And then by doing it regularly, it helps to train and to give that body that healthy reference that it can do it more easily, more often, without having the trigger of having to listen to sound. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of helps to create um, a relationship of the releasing of chemicals and hormones and everything else that regulates our physical body in that way.
And I think too, when we have an emotion, our vocabulary is actually pretty limited. I can say I am angry, but that might not really help that person express the extent of that anger, right? And so with sound, no, there's not a word that contains the story of what it is that we attach to a word. And so it allows even more freedom in a sense to have an emotion expressed, to have a feeling that we may not have a word to accurately express what it is that we felt in the session, but it was exactly what connected the mind body to come to a resolve. A lot of times words can get in the way. So there's also that.
So the idea of introducing a different language, which isn't word based, and being
Hmm.
exposed to that almost invites the body to experience aspects of its relationship to its own generation of energy, and the openness to express that within itself in a non-language way. That's really cool.
Our body, it speaks to us through pangs, pangs and pains and twitches and sweat. you know, it doesn't have a verbal language except as this expression of, um, some type of poke in some way, of making something known. And sometimes, the way that our bodies are sharing information are also a signal coming through our emotions that we don't really understand. Or why am I always frustrated? Why does this anxiety keep coming up? Why do I keep going back to this old story or whatever it is? And I think it really is partly this language barrier of, we're trying to, if we can become still, then we can hear and we can see what it is that our bodies are trying to tell us. And I do think that sound and coming into a sound bath session can be really helpful in just becoming aware of the conversation. The trick though, it's not even a trick, but the thing is that we have to be open to actually looking at it and witnessing it, because this is where things get frustrating for my work is, that part about what do you do with the awareness once and that's human nature. We know that smoking is bad for you, but if you are continually smoking, what is the you're choosing the potential adverse reactions that the body can create due to smoking, right? Sorry, no judgment on y'all. It's all good. Um, but just as an example, we all know it's no secret. And so same thing, why do we keep choosing the same type of toxic relationships, or why do we choose those foods when we know that our body reacts not great? Why do we procrastinate? And so what are you going to do when you have the awareness? Once you've seen, you can't unsee. Once you see, you can't unsee it. And I'm saying this, but this is also a practice for me. I'm not perfect at this. Um, it's a constant, I think, part of our life journey to um, look at where we can empower ourselves and get out of our own way a lot of times. Um, but I think because a sound bath or sound healing session can get you into that space where you are not your identity and you're not your body. It opens up your perspective of something else that's possible. And now you work almost backwards to, are you going to allow yourself to change those belief systems and those perspective and have those perspective shifts? Um, and, you know, it can also be challenging because other people in your family or the people that you are constantly around may not think the same way that you think. They may not be open to this new perspective shift, and so making that change that is going to be good for you in your life may be challenging because you don't have the support system right away, and people may not understand why you are making these changes, or you don't want to gossip, or maybe you don't want to binge drink, or maybe you don't want to smoke anymore, or engage in these other activities, and so the healing process is, it's not something that happens just in the moment of the sound bath. It's what we choose to do with the awareness, and then have the courage to defy, the courage, the audacity to evolve despite the environment that we've lived in for so long not nurturing that. You've outgrown that. So I don't know, that's a whole other aspect of it.
Yeah, what I find really interesting and fascinating about what you're saying is, again, the reach of the possibility that exists within allowing ourselves to go into a state of peaceful self-reflection in the presence of sound, and that change is has the potential to invite us for invite us to look at ourselves differently, which then allows us to make changes in our life that will improve the quality of our life.
hmm
Um, so really, really interesting. I'm going to change subject a little bit.
yeah.
Um, I am really looking forward to a time when I can actually experience a sound bath in person. For the time being, and probably for quite a few years, I'm only going to be able to experience it through my headphones. Most of the people listening to this podcast are going to be in similar situations where they may not have access to go to a live sound bath. But if everything that you're saying and everything that we've been talking about has really been focused on experiencing a sound bath in person, feeling the vibrations in the body, allowing the frequency of the vibrations to be felt by the senses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. From your experience, of course, it's still going to be helpful, but from your experience, can you talk a little bit more about the benefits that are felt and understood purely from listening to a a sound bath experience via headphones?
Yeah, actually, I appreciate that question because, I know, not very many, or not everyone may have that opportunity to experience this in person, or, we're still in pandemic times. So, it might be some fear of, meeting people in person and doing these types of sessions. So, I would say that one of you will get benefit and either. I would say the main difference is that if you were listening with headphones, if you're listening virtually, um, one, hopefully the practitioner has a good audio setup so that they are capturing a clean recording, um, and you're not getting extra fragments of audio fragments. I don't really understand the whole world of mastering and engineering, although all my tracks are mastered and engineered and recorded in a professional recording studio. But I think that does make a really big difference in your experience as a participant. Um, I recommend though that if you're listening virtually that you wear stereo headphones, the ones that come over your ears, kind of like a donut. They just have the best. It's really going to come down to your internet connection, the quality of your headphones, um, and can you create an environment where you are that you feel safe and calm to go deep into these experiences. Um, One of the things that does happen, and why I would say that it's important that you're listening to high quality recorded sessions, is because there's so much compression that happens, one, in a recording, and then two, through the internet. So if someone is going above and beyond and going into a recording studio and getting it professionally recorded, you're going to maintain a lot more of the nuances and the frequencies and the ebbs and the flows without it being, and getting all of that information from the file. um One of the differences in person is, yes, you're experiencing it through your whole body. um in a virtual session, you could, if you had some good speakers, you could create your own kind of sound immersion with speakers around you. And that could be, I know some people who have done that and have had some amazing experiences from that. Um, but one of the benefits too of in person is just the being in the electric magnetic field of the group's heart rate. And HeartMath Institute has a lot of research there for us on that. We can pick up, in our brain waves. They've been able to pick up intention and groups of people syncing up in brainwave states who are just 3 to 5 feet apart. And that's really helpful in a group session because it amplifies the intention of what we're showing up for. And so if you're doing a virtual session, I recommend that you hold an intention so that the sound amplifies what it is that you're holding for yourself. But I still have people there across the board, they're still experiencing seeing colors, seeing shapes, having knowing senses about things, going right to sleep. I mean, especially for my people who are experiencing insomnia, this is an amazing practice to start implementing before bed, especially, a 30-minute session is really helpful. Unless you have anxiety, then if you have anxiety, side note, to my people who have anxiety, one of the things that happens with sound baths, or can happen in a sound bath for people who have anxiety, is that it gives you a lot of energy after a sound bath, that it may be challenging to go to sleep. So if you experience a lot of anxiety, begin your sound bath sometime in the morning so it gives you that rush of energy, so that then by the time you do get to nighttime, you can actually go to sleep. That will start to shift as your nervous system starts to shift and trust what you're doing for it. Again, it's cumulative, but that is one of the things that I've noticed over and over and over again with my people who are experiencing anxiety. So I like to say, I'm sorry and you're welcome. uh, Feel free to email me.
So one thing that I wanted to talk about, and I know that I don't know too much. I'll be honest with you. I don't know too much about. I just started looking at your membership options. There's a free option. There's a paid option, if I remember correctly. Um, and following up on what you were saying, there people have this idea that just because we're not with somebody in person, let me back up. People have this idea that because we are connecting with people virtually, that it's not the same. And I would disagree, because energy is energy and there is no difference between where we are. And I say this because the work that I do is, a lot of people don't understand how I can help facilitate somebody doing a spiritual regression over a Zoom call. Because a
Mm,
lot of people have the idea that they have to be with a facilitator in person in an office where they can share a space and see, hear, and feel everything. Just the other day, I think it was through I'm on Jamie Butler's membership, so there was a recording that she made available to us in there, and the person that was, or the entity, the individual that was speaking through Jamie at the time, was talking about how our, God, this is a really weird side note, but this is what came up,
bring it, bring it,
right?
bring it.
um, as we are developing and evolving our society and our global community to a state of more collaboration, more community, and for those people that understand the idea of a higher level vibration, a higher frequency, what a lot of people refer to as a five-dimensional space as opposed to a three-dimensional space. As we are going into that space, we are going to develop we're going to wake up our ability of telepathy. We're going to, and this was fascinating for me. I have, most of my life, I've had experiences of telepathic experiences happening at unexpected times,
Mm,
um, myself, and I assume I'm not the only one. But let me get back to the point
you're
here.
not the only one.
Yeah, let me get back to the point here. So, what was proposed, which is really fascinating, is that, and they use this example, and I'm going to repeat the example because it's really, really helpful. Our scientists have spent a lot of time and fascination looking and studying bats and fish and how they move within their environments, and why is it that bats don't hit each other when they're flying in their masses, and fish in schools aren't running into each other. How do they know? How do they sense? How do they experience that communal relationship of space? And as we get to a point where we begin to communicate and connect more telepathically, we're going to recognize that we have that same capacity within ourselves. We have this aspect of shared space, um, physically, but it's energetic that we're sharing a space. I work with a group of other people where we all connect via Zoom, um, and we share a space within Zoom, and you can feel the connection in the group. It's tangible. So the fact that there is space between ourselves, let me go again, let me get back to what I'm trying to say here. My question to you, for the listeners that are listening and that want to experience a sound bath and get the benefits of a community,
Mm,
I looked at your website and there are dates when you are doing sound baths at specific times that are live or that are posted at that time, that are not necessarily recordings that you can listen to later, but are experiences that are happening at a time when a lot of people are going to be listening to it at the same time. I would imagine, given what I know about how our energies work, that that still creates that collective influence and support that the community can build to our individual experience. So can you talk a little bit more about what you offer with regards to these collective opportunities, as opposed to the recordings that I have on my phone that I listen to when I'm at a bus stop or when I'm a train going to work? Or please do not listen to these while you're driving. Let me just say that this is not the kind of thing that I would recommend listening to when you need to be active and alert. Um, but I would love to have you speak about the things that you offer that are available for groups and communities to participate as a group, even if it's virtual.
Great, thank you. So the virtual sound baths that you're talking about that are coming up are actually from it's called Sound On. The series of sessions are called Sound On, and it is a specific virtual session that is for my soon to be graduate students of the sound healing certification program. They come and do a free virtual sound bath as their final, and so I promote them. I want everybody to know about these new practitioners coming out into the field. I want to create an ecosystem within the sound healing industry that is supportive and comes from a place of love and not lack. And so that's part of what the mission of these series of Sound On. It'll be a new practitioner every single time, and it's someone who's graduating my certification program. And those are virtual. And you're right. Who Jonathan Goldman is one of the pioneers in sound healing industry, and what I like to say, or that saying, standing on the giants before you, standing on the shoulders of the giants before you. He is one of those giants, who's helped to pioneer the industry, and I've learned so much from him and has studied with him and under him. And one of the things that he does is every Valentine's Day, he does a sound healing. Um, there's a collective sound healing event where, at the same time across the globe, we're all toning the sound of ma or om. And so, when there are, it doesn't matter, here, we might have like 20 people coming to these virtual sessions, but what we are doing is we're all falling into the same vibration. And that is something that could be measured. And I forgot what it's called, though. I'm blanking on it. It's measured too when there's traumatic experiences that have happened, like 9/11. Scientists have gone and measured this. I don't know. I want to say it's the electromagnetic field, but I don't think that that's it. There's something that is measured, and it tells the vibration of the collective. So yeah, we have that ability. We have that power to um, feel what's on the other side of the earth, what's on the other side, my neighbor, and bring even that a little bit closer to maybe home, closer to, maybe something that, listeners have experienced before, is, let's say you are going to a gathering, and you're getting ready and you're feeling good, and you're like, yeah, I'm looking hot, feeling good, all the things. And then you get to, you cross the threshold of the door of that house for that gathering, and all of a sudden you feel sick to your stomach. And the only thing that's changed is your environment. You are being exposed to the energies of other people. You've eaten, you did your gluten-free and your dairy-free, that you wore your, you got your crystals or whatever it is. It doesn't even matter if you have crystals. But the only thing that changed in your attitude in stepping through that door was just the environment. And now how that environment, you're feeling that energy shift within your body. Same thing where we can feel somebody looking at us. We can feel somebody's energy directed at us. And I think, we're just not taught to we're not taught to develop or trust these abilities that we all have. We all have these abilities. We're just not taught to trust them or to develop them. And a lot of people are told that you're crazy for believing them. So if we're already shamed for these innate gifts that we all have, then we're going to suppress it. We're not going to trust it. We're not going to build it. We're not going to develop it. But I do think that, more and more people are becoming open to these conversations. And because of that, we will be able to have the conversation and develop that, telepathy or these other intuitive faculties within ourselves.
I definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that. I think that there's a lot of changes and shifts that are happening all around us, um, that are going to help promote that and facilitate that. Um, Going back to my proposition, for those of you that are listening that are really interested in experiencing a sound bath and the community aspect of a sound bath, definitely take advantage of these opportunities that Danielle is speaking about, of her students that are offering these virtual sessions that are going to be timed, where many of us are going to be listening at the same time, where we will create a space of community, even if we are in our own individual homes listening to it virtually. That community does exist. There is a power and a strength in that community and in the experience of sound that we can benefit from. So definitely, again, check out Danielle's virtual offerings in terms of her memberships, but definitely encourage you to consider listening to one of these live sessions where it is going to be a community experience. So I would definitely recommend that. Um, I know I've spoken a lot about kind of your membership and things like that. Where, before I go there, what would you like to share that we haven't spoken about, or what would you like to expand upon that that we might have said that you would like to go into
Mm.
more detail on?
You know, this just came to mind that sound healing is a tool. It's a vehicle that can get you from where you are to where you want to be. But it's not the only tool. And I know that Daniel, we've talked about permission slips briefly in our last conversation of, if sound healing is something that you're feeling intrigued, would like to know more about, or dip your big toe in, these free virtual sound baths are a really perfect opportunity for you to see if this is something that you're into. And maybe that is the permission slip to try something new, or to continue an internal conversation that you're having with yourself. And also know that it's just a tool. Um, it's not something that I would say is, with anything, that it's not prescriptive. It's a tool. Same thing with yoga is a tool. Massage is a tool. Prescription medicines are a tool. And all of these are just these tools, these vehicles for us to utilize and to work with as we are empowering ourselves, as we are making the changes and empowering ourselves in our lives, shifting our belief systems, and evolving into the life and health that we want. Um, And because it's a tool, because it's a vehicle, it's not supposed to be something that you have to come back to every time you're feeling some kind of way. It's not a band-aid. It's a tool that you pick up when you need it and you put down when you don't. You could pick it up as, a tool that sound healing specifically, you could pick it up as a tool, as a, like a workout would be in conditioning, the nervous system. And what I'm trying to get at is it's not a band-aid. There will be things that come up that will ask you to step out of your comfort zone and make the change that you want to see in your life. And sometimes we can't make all of those changes at once, right? Sometimes we know what those changes are supposed to be. But allow this tool to support you in relieving some stress, relieving some anxiety, reducing some pain, and potentially opening up your perspective to what it could be to feel good in your mind, body, and spirit. Um, I think too often we could get fixated on the tool as being the end all be all, but it's really a tool. I'm not sharing with you, I'm sharing with you this tool, but really what I'm sharing with you is empowerment, self-empowerment. I don't want you to need me. I don't want you to have to come back to me or any of my students for a session. I want you to find the empowerment within yourself to create the life that you want to live and that you feel good in living. So, I just want to bring it back to that. Like, we're talking a lot about sound healing and energy, and that's great. And thank you for being open to this conversation. But really, it's about using this tool in a way that will help you find that self-empowerment and condition your nervous system in a way that you don't have these same things come up over and over and over again.
I love what you're saying. And um, I want to add my own 2 cents to this. A lot of times people will become dependent on the practice of whatever it is that they're doing, feeling that they need the practice in order to feel a certain way or to experience a
Mm.
certain way. And what they're not recognizing is that what the tool is doing is allowing you to tap into your own natural resources, into
Yes.
your
Oh, I
true
got chills.
self, right? So
Absolutely.
the tools are allowing you to tap into your own true nature. They're allowing you to tap into the peace of mind, the mental health, the innate well-being that is an integral part of who you already are. And the tool is just a way to remind you that that exists within you. And so there's that element of recognizing the empowerment that is coming from within you and not associating that experience to the tool itself. So I love that. And what a beautiful, beautiful thing to share with people. Um, so, next question for you.
Yes.
I'm aware of the time, but I told you I do
You
this.
warned me. No, it's all good. I'm prepared.
I told you I do this. My listeners are aware of this. So another question, which I normally ask at the beginning of a conversation, but we
Okay.
didn't go into it because of the way that it naturally evolved. But I would love to get your thoughts, given that we're speaking about empowerment, self-empowerment. What does it mean to you that we have inner power? Like, if somebody said to you that we all have inner power, what would that mean to you?
I think it's so individual. It's so individual. Inner power for me is independence. It's this sense of freedom that I can, get up and move around and, teach and also retreat. Um, uh, I think it's something that everyone needs to define for themselves, and that it's something that um that I or you cannot tell them how to feel or be or do within that. I think it's that is owning that it's yours, owning that it's whatever you want it to be. Um, how do you want to feel? Like I want to feel happy. I want to feel at peace. I want to feel like I'm contributing. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel clear. Um, I want to feel rested. Um, and what are the other things? How can I empower myself in other ways to feel the way that I want to feel? But yeah, I think it's very individual, and I think that empowerment piece comes from, it's not it doesn't it's not something that can be defined by others. It can only be defined by self.
Thank you for that. And there's another question that I've been wanting to ask you, which I feel I, it would be remiss for me not to bring this up. Um, one of the things that, and I smile because you wanted this recorded. Um, one of the things that really attracted me to reach out to you was the fact that you are speaking a common language in a way that is accessible to people that are not necessarily interested in the esoteric and new age and hippie energies and languages and perspectives. You are introducing very powerful opportunities for people to connect with their spiritual self without necessarily speaking about it being a spiritual thing. There's in the conversation with Jamie, you were talking about how, she asked you specifically, she was shocked and amazed that you were doing corporate sessions where you would go into a business with your bowls, and you were this, and you said that you were called the sound lady or something like that.
Yeah, sound bath lady.
Sound bath lady. But I would love for you to speak a little bit more about this aspect of your intention of creating the language that you've created in order to connect with and reach people in the way that you want to reach them.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, one of the things that I find interesting within my own journey is I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of kind of a hippie new age energy, and I was always put off by that aspect of spirituality in a way. And you kind of touched on this a little bit at the beginning. I didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, using the language that you used. It put me off. And so a lot of what I want to do and the work that I'm doing within this podcast is to introduce things to people in a way and in a language that is accessible and common without going into the, oh, thank you for the love that you're sharing me, and going into all of these kind of, that whole conversation. And it's, for some people it's wonderful, and I'm not trying to put that down, but that's not me. That is not the way that I am. That's not the way that aspect of communication and teaching and sharing loving spaces is not what attracts me and appeals to me. What really attracts me and appeals to me is, and I'm just going to be very blunt, exactly the way that you present yourself and the things that you do is what attracts me to learn more and to reach out and to connect with you and say, I want that, because you're speaking to me at a level that I feel is genuine, without airs, without, I don't know how to put it. It's just very natural. Um, so I would love for you to speak a little bit more about how you were conscious of this and how
Mhm.
that helped shift and influences not only what you do, but also how you teach your students to do what you're inviting them to do.
Ugh, that's loaded as well. To give everybody some background, and thank you. I appreciate all of that, and I think that it takes courage for anyone to just be themselves. And I think, especially in this kind of day and age, at some point, or maybe, even like past, right? Like what you are all seeing of me is I'm not a perfect speaker. And I got over myself on that. I flub over my words. I'll start to go down one track and then diverge to another track. Um, I'm slightly dyslexic. If you look on my Instagram story today, you probably notice I have some like words that are mixed up that should not be in that order, you know? Um, but at a certain point, I think on this health and wellness journey is of my own health and wellness journey was that I just realized that everybody is having a very similar internal conversation that I'm having. And so why am I putting so much pressure on myself to be something that I'm not, or, to not allow myself to come through? And, in early in my career, or I'll back up to what I was originally going to say. I grew up in military family, military kid, and it was pretty strict household. Our we were taught early on that our actions can affect our actions as kids, can affect the career of my father and how we're out playing and how we're interacting with people. And so not there were some belief systems that were instilled or that we adapted very early on that I don't think my parents necessarily meant to put on us pressure wise, but that we each I have a younger sister and brother that we each, took on in our own way. And um so there was a great amount of responsibility that I took on as a young child of my actions affect my family and could kick my dad out of the military. So I'm going to be a good kid. I'm going to follow the line. I'm not going to say much. I'm going to put my hands in my lap, be quiet and seen, but not heard. Right. And fast forward, for the first 28 years of my life, I was on again, off again sick. I had migraines and skin challenges and digestive issues and a lot of things that culminated to a point at 28 of not being my normal sick, where I was losing my hair, I was losing the enamel on my teeth, I had lumps in my breast, I had migraines and chronic constipation, and I was in and out of the emergency room. A doctor actually told me, "We don't find out what's going on with you, Miss Hall. You're going down a really dark road." And then came all of these tests to figure out what the heck was going on in Miss Hall's body, and probed and pricked and all the things, right? But it was that conversation, it was that statement from that doctor that was actually the permission slip for me to be open to alternative therapies, more specifically a naturopathic doctor at the time, only because she had doctor in the name. Found out that all my health issues and challenges from a young age were a gluten allergy, took out gluten from my diet and felt what healthy felt like for the first time in my life at 28. And this started to open up my perspective to what was actually possible for my life and shine a light on my belief systems and where I adopted them from and what I was operating from, my 5-year-old, 7-year-old belief systems, and began this journey of opening up my perspective and really asking myself truthfully, why do I think this way? Why do I feel this way? Why do I act this way? Why did I say that? And not in the beginning, there was a lot of shame. There was a lot of self-worth issues that I had, challenges. Am I lovable enough? I had these belief systems that somebody's not going to, once they find out that I'm sick all the time, they're not going to love me. They're not going to love me or want me to be a part of this community because I'm not smart enough. I can't retain, I was sick all the time and I had lots of brain fog and memory challenges that, I didn't think that I was smart enough to, at one point I had to look at, why am I not stepping forward in the sound healing community more in the way that I want to? And it was because of this internal conversation that I was having, that I wasn't smart enough to do it, because I couldn't retain information, or I didn't have an Ivy League degree, or whatever, the belief system was surrounded by. And so as I was bringing this out more and more, and I was doing my personal work and overcoming these things and shifting my belief systems and opening my perspective to other ways of thinking and being and doing and feeling, I just at a point said, fuck it, internally, not like outwardly. And it was just like started to be more and more unapologetically me. And I think, when we're sharing our stories, when we're sharing a message, you can feel when people are being genuine. You can feel when somebody has your best interest. Some people are really good at not having your best interest and hiding that vibration, but I think it's just, I just got to a point in my own healing process, and this still happens, we're in this, as long as we're in this meat suit, this is a forever process for all of us of coming back to, why do I believe what I believe, and why, just being a witness to our thoughts and being a non-judgmental witness to our actions and reactions, and asking ourselves, like, how can we be better humans? I don't know. I think that's really the process. When I look back on it, it wasn't necessarily an intentional thing, except, when I was in sound healing school, I was around, like, the majority, I was the only non-esoteric person in the group when I went to sound healing school. And, I was turned off, but it was because I didn't understand how they could trust energy and how they could trust these things, or where are they getting their information from. And, in some ways I was envious because I couldn't relax like they could. I couldn't, I couldn't feel that connected to my femininity like some of the amazing women who were in my class. And so in some ways it was, and I didn't realize that at the time, but it was just, I wasn't connecting to that conversation that they were having because I wasn't able to connect with it within myself. And really, when I was finding that sound healing therapy was becoming so beneficial to me, I knew that there were other people who thought like me, who wouldn't be open to my kind of more free-spirited community, and thought more like me, and maybe have had some similar experiences like I have. And I knew that my packaging and how I would talk about things would make it accessible to the other Danielle Halls out there. And so, it became, again, it became less about the tool and more about the empowerment piece, about finding the other Danielle Halls out there who didn't know to think differently about their bodies and their experience of life, and how I didn't know to question what was happening in my body those first 28 years because I followed the line. I did what I was told. I went to, that you do the thing, which is go to the doctor and you take the pill. And I didn't question those things. I wasn't curious. And so for me, I use sound as the tool to help people to become curious about themselves, to find where they're not, what is the role that you're playing in your own life, and where are you giving your power away? Because that's an opportunity to take it back. and empower yourself to create the life that you want to live. And that was what I had to learn for myself. I think in sharing our stories, in sharing, me and sharing my story, and at that one point of whatever part it was that I said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna be the me that I am." I think that's what makes me approachable, and I think why people trust me, because I'm just willing to share the stories, the good, the bad, the ugly.
There was a word that you used in the beginning of that, um, that I want to emphasize because it's a word that I find really, really helpful within my own journey, and one that I recommend others recognize within themselves. Is you said that it takes a lot of courage.
Mm.
It takes a lot of courage to look in a direction that we feel is right for us, even if it goes against what we have been taught. Or it takes a lot of courage to look in a direction that is challenging our own ideas of ourselves and challenging our beliefs. But
You're going into the unknown. You don't know what's on the other side of that yes. You don't know what's on the other side of that no either.
yeah, yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I am very grateful for what we've shared today, and for this conversation. I am very excited to continue my journey, listening to your gifts. Um, so, is there anything that you would like to share in closing?
Well, if y'all made it this far, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for saying yes to yourself. I mean, as we continue to do these different practices, use these different tools for ourselves, we become better, and that just shows other people that they can do the same for themselves. So I think, we get to live by example, and there's a profound ripple effect in that. If you are interested in learning more about sound healing, please connect with me on Instagram, sound_embrace. I love Instagram. I don't know what it is. I just love storytelling, and I write a lot there. So, my website is soundembrace.com. You can go to the calendar section and check out what new in person and virtual sound bath sessions are coming up available, as well as sound healing certification program, which comes around every couple of months. Check it out for level 1. Registration's open now, at least at the time of this recording. And I'm super happy to chat with you with a free consultation call around the sound healing certification program and how that's laid out and if it's a good fit or not. And the Sound Embrace membership, 2-minute, 10-minute, and 30-minute sessions, sound healing in your pocket. And it is new. It is a new baby for me as well at the time of this particular recording. So I just want to make sound healing more accessible, and so this is one way that I'm trying to do that. And if you actually write your experiences below the track, I'll come back and, type back to you and try to help you connect the dots around your experience. So, um, thanks for having me, Daniel. And thank you all for hanging out with us while we're discussing all the things.
Absolutely, it's been an honor and a pleasure. So, again, I will have information in the description of the podcast, so everything is accessible. Would you, and just, I know that I could ask this off the recording, but would you be able to send me a picture of a sound bath setup,
Yeah.
so that I can add that to the page, so that people can actually see what it might look like?
Yeah.
And so again, sorry. And so again, thank you again for being here, Danielle. I look forward to continuing our collaborations and conversations. And invitation is always open if you want to come back and share something, and I will definitely reach out to you in the future to invite you back. So for everybody listening, love to you all. Thank you all for being with us, and again for putting up with these long conversations that I'm holding. I will bring this to an end for now. So until next time, soar and explore with love. And Danielle, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
All right, bye bye. Thank you for listening. Hopefully, you heard something new that invites you to reflect, to go within, and deepen your own understanding of life and of our universal experience. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow the podcast series on your favorite listening app and share this episode with others that you feel would enjoy it as well. Until next time, may we all soar with inspiration, explore with passion, and live with love.